Kelly, every part of your body starts to itch. This bothers you, that bothers you. There's nothing.
Oh, you want to take one?
Oh,
Can I get one for my parents?
sure.
I'm doing some video here too.
By the
so-
way, I was terribly disappointed when they first got in touch with me because I thought they were going to offer me the part. I mean, I thought I was going back into showbiz. They made up a little bit by giving me one line out there in the audience. By the way, an incredible trip that I just took. I thought of my mother, my father, the Morosco Theater down on 45th Street. All of it. I mean, it all there.
I can
everything.
I can tell you were moved, and it was
Oh,
lovely.
God, it was overwhelming. I mean, it's just
I'm
overwhelming.
glad it was a great experience.
It's well, I mean, think we're talking about 3/4 of the decade,
it's
and you could hardly go on a nostalgia trip any better than sitting here for 2 hours
Right.
and hearing those lines and remembering this and this and remembering the people I work with and my folks were friends at Thornton Wilder and going up to visit.
Sure,
And of course, everything that was said would start you out in a new thing.
And your dad was in the ensemble, right?
Huh?
Your dad was in the ensemble.
Yeah, he was the lead singer in the choir.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
And so it was a great experience.
I'm so.
Tell them all the time, you want to be a celebrity, just live long enough. I mean, who would have given a damn if I was in our town 20 years afterwards? But when you got to 50 at the MacArthur Theater,
Yeah, right.
suddenly, oh my Lord, we'll bring him in. Now we're 75. I just can't wait for 100. By the way,
I'll do that.
he did a great job.
I'll do that.
I watched him very close because
Give them any notes you feel like.
I'm still blinded by that light.
Not too harsh.
I want to get a picture, if we can, with my son and grandson.
Yeah, sure.
And Boyd too.
So was Jed Harris as mean as everyone purported him to be?
Ask him.
I've heard the story. Yeah.
Story. True story. You want to know how tough that guy was?
Yeah,
how
yeah.
mean? We're down at MacArthur Theater.
Is that where you
That's
tried
where we
out?
started. Yeah,
tried
we
out?
started at MacArthur, right? And we were there, I don't know, 3 performances, 5, I don't
really?
remember. And of course, you know what it would be like when you're leading up to the first night.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
going over
And
everything.
it's all
everything.
happening first
Oh
night,
my
no
God,
previews,
right?
nothing, yeah.
So now we're going. Comes 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. Now it's midnight. And we're all out in the theater, and somebody turns to Jed Harris and says, "Hey, Jed, you know we got 4 kids here tonight." And Jed Harris says, "They're in the cast, aren't they?" And honest to God, the 4 of us, I don't know how late, we worked till 3 in the morning. The 4 kids were all on the ground. There was, thank God, if I remember right, there was carpeting. We were all on the ground,
Just to
under
sleep-
the
under the
seats,
seats.
all 4 kids. And that was Jed Harris. I mean, when you've heard
a nice
how
guy.
tough he was, yeah, he was.
Well, Olivier based his Richard III on him, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he said it was a combination of Jed Harris and the Big Bad Wolf. Apparently, there were similarities.
Well, I mean, she was an absolute. Hit the number. I mean, God, he was hell to work with. But hey, he put together one hell of a show.
And how were you, like 9 or 10 when you did that?
I was, I was born in 26, so we opened up on what, December 37 or January 30. I think
38,
we opened
yeah.
up January 38.
That's
And
what
so
I've
at
read.
that point in the game, I would have been 11. Wow.
Mine is simply Scott Wilder.
And,
Seems to be correct.
my folks in Thornton Wilder, we used to drive every once in a while up to Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
And visit, yeah.
Wow.
And so I had, but you know, this thing is more than just the original play. We opened at MacArthur, we went into New York, we worked about a year in New York, right?
Yeah.
When we ran out of people to come to the show in New York, we went on the road for a year.
So how long did you do it?
Oh, I don't know, probably close to a year. We went all over the country. Now, not only that, but when we got back, we went on another few months went by and we went on the horse circuit, so I worked another 3 or 4 months with it. And then on top of that, the last show I did before I went out to kill people in the Pacific was Our Town Revival at the City Center.
Oh, yeah.
So between the original and the road show
Right.
and the horse circuit and the revival, I mean, a big part of the depression was taken up by Our Town, keeping me working.
Yeah,
all the
sure.
time. And I worked all the time. I worked for 13 years. I don't think I was out of work more than a couple months all the time.
And at what point did you stop
I
acting?
didn't like my name to be put.
When I went in the Navy.
Oh, you were in the Navy,
Yeah,
wow.
I enlisted when I was 17 in the
Widely
Navy
screaming.
and never looked back.
Wow.
I had a 13-year career behind me, 2 years in vaudeville, 11 on Broadway, and a lot of radio. And I walked away.
Everyone was very impressed with your speaking voice when you. Wait a minute.
They didn't need that mic. Yeah.
Take the microphone. No, because a lot of times.
Is
there any drinking in Grover's Corner?
Well, you have to remember, I did 2 years of vaudeville, working houses
Big
bigger
house.
than this,
Oh, lots
with
bigger.
no sound system. With
No,
no
yeah,
sound
nothing
system.
at all.
I had to stand there as a 5-year-old kid. I'd blast out and get the whole show.
What-
That's why I have the voice I have.
You still got it. That's great.
So far, so good. I told her something, and she laughed at me when I told her. I was told some gal the other day heard that I was 87 years old, and she said, "You look a lot younger." And I said, "That's really nice," until I thought about it. What the hell good does it do you to look younger? You're 87 years old.
Well, you look
And,
great.
Well, I sometimes pass myself off for 79. It's easier to pick up.
You got to do what you
You
got to do.
do what you have to do.
I told him it would work.
How long did you do vaudeville?
About 2 years, the end of it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
In other
I
words,
did.
what was happening at that point, vaudeville was dying. The talkies had come in 27.
Thanks, Matthew.
What?
Taken over
When
all
they,
those-
they took over so fast. All the silence were ended within a year.
And then they would still have an occasional show with a movie, right?
Yeah, and that's what they did. Basically, when I worked vaudeville, there'd be, like, instead of 8 acts, there'd be 4 or 5 and
A feature.
a movie.
Right.
And that was the death. Yeah, I mean, vaudeville's dying. And then I was lucky because I don't know if they still have it. The Gary Law in New York makes it illegal for a kid to be on a stage after 8 o'clock.
Wow.
Yeah,
Was
if
that-
you're
that-
under 7.
For under.
If you were under 7, you could not be on a stage after 8, which meant you couldn't do a Broadway show.
Yeah, sure.
The Gary Act was dumped somewhere, I don't know, 34. And the first show I did on Broadway was The Old Maid, and we won the Pulitzer Prize.
Oh,
for that.
yeah. No, were your folks in show business? Is that how?
My dad was an actor, and had been in vaudeville. My mom, for a brief time, was in vaudeville. She was a ballet dancer,
Right.
and a good one. And then she moved into the vaudeville end of it. And so I grew
Born
up.
in a trunk.
I was born almost in a trunk, right. And
What age did you start?
5,
Wow.
5 and about 2 years, and so when I would turn 7, we moved into the.
So you were, by the time you got to Our Town, you were an old hand. You were.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Long
and then,
resume.
and then to show you what happens, see, one thing carries to another. I join the Navy, I go up and I get training at Sampson. When I finish the training, they give you 5 days to go home and say goodbye to
Yeah,
everybody,
yeah.
and then come back, and now you're gonna be assigned, right? So I go back, oh man, I can't wait, I'm gonna be at sea, I'm gonna be fighting those Japs
Yeah.
in the Pacific, or going over to the Germans, or fighting them. And I come back, and we went to the receiving station, and they would give you orders every few hours. Here's a list of guys that are going to this. Here's a list of here.
Right.
Well, list comes out, I'm one of the guys on a huge assignment to a new aircraft carrier. Okay, great, I'm waiting, we're all gonna leave tomorrow morning. And they suddenly call my name, and I go into the office, and I said, what do you want? And they said, well, we got orders. I said, well, I'm on the carrier. And they said, no, we took you off of it. And I said, what do you want now, what do you want to do? And they said, here's your orders, and they gave me, among other things, they gave me my service record, which is very rare that any man, enlisted man, ever
Would have a
carried
whole-
his own.
yeah, exactly.
It would be usually in the hands of an officer who was taking it. They gave me my service record and a ticket to Washington DC. And they said, you go down there and go to the desk at the station, and they'll take, and I said, well, what are you saying? Well, you're stationed in Anacostia. I said, what the hell is Anacostia? It's part of DC.
Oh, is it? I was
There
gonna
is
say,
in Anacostia, DC. Nobody, very few people know that, but it is a.
Anaconda, Montana, that's as close as I can think of.
So what it turned out, when I went there, I was stationed at Little Hollywood. Little Hollywood was a section of naval intelligence across from the air station, and all of us there, we were all actors or whatever, and we would make propaganda films and training films. And since they had to give us something else to do, we were the security detail for the entire base. And because we would shoot the films on a weekend, every other weekend we were off. We would, I could go back to New York.
Wow.
And because they had so many of us to guard the place, that we only stood 5 hours watch a day. So during the week, five hours of duty, 19 hours of liberty where there were 8 girls to a guy. And then on every other weekend, I'd go home. It was a hard war, let me tell you. This was
It's tough. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and just think back, did you ever hear of any Germans or Japanese getting as far as Washington?
No, your
They
job
needed-
well done.
But what I did do is every Monday morning, I would go to personnel, and I would say, I am not going to tell my grandchildren that I was in Washington for World War II, and I want to volunteer for seat duty. I went there month after month. I think 3-4 months I was down there. Finally, I walked in one day, and they said, all right, we're tired
let
of
you
looking
go.
at you. Where do you want to go? I said, well, go to the Pacific.
And did you?
Yeah,
Where'd you go?
I got a star for Okinawa.
No kidding.
Yeah, they sent me.
You fought Okinawa. That's
Yeah.
huge, gigantic. See,
Well, they didn't hurt me. They knew better.
Were you on what kind of ship were you on?
I was on a LST, amphibious.
Oh!
And basically,
My dad was a jarhead, so he would talk all about
all about how we.
how being on
treated
an
so well.
LST was like basically a death sentence.
Hey, Boyd, would meet Aaron's parents, and I know they would
Oh,
like to
I'm
meet.
sure. Sure. Erin, our Emily's parents.
How you doing, honey? You did good.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
No, you guys did good, but I hope everybody is happy. You made me cry. I mean, I'm telling you, I was on such a nostalgia trip watching this. I was going back 75 years and thinking of everything that ever happened. In other words, I thought
Well, you
more
will
about-
laugh because when we came upstairs, all the dead people go, "He's so right." As soon as I sit down, I itch. That was so funny. They all were like, he nailed it. He said, we sit down and we go, "Oh, I itch. I've got my nose." Oh, and they sit there for 35 minutes itching. Yeah.
Oh, our Miss Gibbs has got a terrible cold, and last night she was going.
I need to blow my nose. I gotta breathe.
By the way,
She's
above
imploding.
all that young lad, he's the one that's tough. I invented when I was doing that role. I did that role for
2 years.
2
or 3 years.
half an hour. There you go. Son of a gun. Half an hour, right? I used to sit, and they had me in the corner. If you take a look at any pictures.
Yeah,
I do. You're down in the back.
It's in the
Yeah.
ground plan
They
in
had
the
me
French
all the way in the
script.
back. But during that time, I did something that nobody else in the world knew and wouldn't know now unless I told them. I invented the Little League. There was no such thing as a Little League when I was a kid that age. Our
Sandball
folks
ball.
gave us a ball and a glove if we were lucky.
Kicked you
and
outside.
we all went out in Central Park where I went to play, and we played ball. We didn't have any adults near us. We didn't have anything. We played with bats, and if they broke, you knew how to drill a hole and put a nail and then
Right,
tape
yeah,
it up. We taped up balls after the cover was knocked
Oh, yeah.
off. And so I used to sit there, and I would invent this place. in my little world.
While you were dead.
Yeah, every night I would go and I played on an actual ball field with grandstand, and dugout, and a rack of bats that were all nice, and uniforms and the whole thing, which was like unheard of then. It was basically what I dreamt up, what I imagined.
While you were sitting in the
the
cemetery.
Little League. And I used to play it pitch by pitch. I'd come out, okay, let's see, oh yeah, that's right, I'm at the end of the third inning.
I wonder what Matthews invented. Maybe.
I don't even
Matthew says he rolls movies. and
Yeah,
goes
he told me.
He does movies in his head. How
Anyhow,
many
you guys
performances
a
did you
really
do?
good job. Really, really good.
Oh, it's so special that you're here tonight. I'm so
Yeah.
happy.
By the way, I will say one other thing about my involvement. I'm not taking credit now. It's just like World War II. There's two things that I tell people the facts and let them make their own decision. As far as World War II, people ask me what my service. I always point 3 facts. That's it. Facts, that's all I want to deal with. Fact number 1, there were thousands of battles in World War II. Fact number 2, I only fought in a single battle, the Battle of Okinawa.
That's a good one.
Fact number 3, after the only battle I fought in, the enemy surrendered. Those are and no, I'm not making claims. I'm not making
any claims, but those are the facts.
Coincidence.
Those are the facts. Thousands of
Coincidence is
battles.
possible. You know, I mean, you can't rule it out. Now, the other fact is, I played Wally with 3 Emilys, all 3 of whom were fairly well-known actresses when they got the part to be my sister.
That's right.
And I'm not making claims again, but Martha Scott, Dorothy McGuire, and Teresa Wright. 1, 2, 3.
Teresa Wright? You worked with Teresa Wright?
She played Emily.
Is that right? I didn't know Teresa Wright had ever played. Dorothy McGuire I knew.
Okay.
And Martha Scott is always
the
the one
original
you hear.
cast, Martha Scott, The Road Show, Dorothy McGuire. When we went to the Bourse Circuit and places like that,
Right.
it was Teresa Wright.
Wow.
So I had all 3.
How many performances did you do? Have you ever gotten, how many performances did you
Oh
do?
my God, I've never figured, but I did the original in New York for a year,
Probably
roughly. I
pushing
did
1,000
the
is my
road
guess.
show for another approximately a year. Then we did the Bourse Circuit that lasted another 3 or 4 months. And then I was in the revival at the City Center. Was the last job I had before I joined the Navy.
Did Frank Craven do it, the stage manager in that revival
Yeah.
too? Yeah, that's what I thought.
By the way, one of the George in the revival was Montgomery Clift.
Oh,
wow.
And
I'm dying.
And Martha was my buddy. God bless her. She did the revival. She came to do the revival. And by that time, she was a pretty big Hollywood
Right,
star.
yeah, sure.
And so I was always Wally to her. I mean, that was it.
Yeah,
And
sure.
She loved me as just being, you know how some women just love kids, right? And Montgomery, every night, there'd be somebody from Hollywood or some big shot would come backstage after the show to see Martha. And Monty Clift always found some excuse to come to her dressing room. And, hey, Martha, I just want, you have somebody here. Oh, you have two directors and a producer. I don't want to interrupt. And so what we used to do to keep him from just getting totally out of control, Martha used to get me sit in the dressing room and talk to her. And so it made it a little harder
For him to get in the door. That wasn't that funny.
Anyhow, listen, I got to let everybody go. It's great talking
Oh,
to
yeah,
all
it's
of
been
you.
wonderful.
Thank you
And
so
you
much
did a
for
great
coming.
job.
Can I get a picture with you too? I would love a picture with you too.
Wonderful job, boy. I really enjoyed
Thank
it.
you.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Here we go.
And you're going to send me pictures of all these pictures, huh?
Absolutely.
I want it too.
Absolutely. Kimberly will see something. And then